This never gets old. Cuban man who tattooed Trump in support of his idol was deported yesterday. Can't make this shit up. This story is getting attention online as a striking example of how personal loyalty, political expression, and immigration enforcement can intersect.
The ICE police, they took my brother. I told them I'm not leaving. I told them I'm gonna stand right next to the ICE freaking facility until they let him out. I brought him Gatorade. He's done nothing wrong. He has no criminal history. He's done nothing wrong. He's literally a kid. He goes to school and he works. Like, he's done nothing wrong. I need an immigration lawyer to come and get him out because I can't. With all my credentials, I can't.
My kids are gonna be without their dad for 10 years.
I have zero sympathy for Cubans that voted for that delinquent motherfucker. Y'all are now facing the consequences of your own actions because of your pure fucking ignorance.
I will vote Donald Trump. I will vote Donald Trump. Cubans in Miami, they are crying out. They want Black Americans to help them. Cubans in Miami are panicking. They are rage. They are mad. Guess what, guys? The popular Cuban man that has that audacity to tattoo, not only small tattoo, big tattoo, Trump name on his hand has been deported. And it's not anybody. Cubans in Miami right now are getting the powerful moment of their life. You know, when they came up with that song, it was looking more like we Black people are very jealous. We don't understand what politics is. And the only person they can literally idolize is the orange man. I know the fact that the orange man started with them. So right now, instead of I will vote, it's going to be I will vote my deportation. I will vote. Ooh. Let's do it, guys. Credit to the original creators of every single clips and stitches we have in our today's episode. I'll come back with more commentaries. Let's go really watch.
Trump administration says that as soon as next month, they're going to be ending the legal status of more than 500,000 migrants from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela. If they don't leave before losing that status, they could be targets for deportation. So these migrants were allowed into this country legally under a program from the Biden administration.
If there ever was a definition of fuck around and find out, we have just found it. Where are my Miami Cubans at, huh? Where are you guys at? Because you guys were loud and proud back then. Where are you at now? He had you all fooled saying that the deportations were only for the bad people, the unalivers, the grapists, the ones bringing drogas into the country, right? He had you guys so fucking fooled. It was only the bad people. And now you guys fucked around and found out because you voted him in, and now look it. Y'all thought because your skin was light enough that you were going to get away with the deportations. But now that it's affecting you all, you're all on the internet boo-hooing and crying. Why are we going back to this country? Why are you sending me back? I did this the right way. He doesn't give a shit. When are you going to learn? If you're brown, if you speak Spanish, he wants you fucking gone. Gone. And now you fuck around and you found out.
Being from Miami, I don't know how to feel about Cubans being in their find out era, because they took over Miami, and it was to the point where you couldn't even find a job unless you spoke Spanish. And even if you spoke Spanish and you wasn't Cuban, you wasn't getting that job. And I give them a lot of credit, because before their family or friends would leave Cuba, they would already have a job, a car, and a place to stay by the time they reached Miami. They really set up their people very, very well. They even had a wet foot, dry foot policy. Where they messed up at was thinking that they thought becoming a Republican was going to make them turn. And the whole time they're speaking Spanish. And a majority of them didn't even bother to learn English, but yet they thought they were. And my main question is, what is the difference between Fidel Castro and 45? Until then,
Nothing brings me more joy than Trump supporters and MAGA regretting their votes. A South Florida man is regretting his vote after his life partner was kidnapped, and now she's being deported to Cuba.
Vote for this, but I definitely voted Republican.
A desperate plea to President Trump from a South Florida man fearing his life partner could be deported to Cuba at any moment.
She does not deserve this. She's the sweetest person and she prayed for you. Cuban's not going to get deported, so don't worry about it.
Both were staunch supporters of President Trump.
When you said I didn't vote for this, what did you think you had voted for?
I really thought this was just going to be something organized, but it's obviously not. They just blanket everybody.
There are going to be people who say, you voted for this.
Yeah, I've heard that from people. I'm sorry. I didn't know that this was going to happen. This is about human beings. It's not about left or right.
Give me a minute.
This is a firm lesson, and fuck around and find out. And I'm glad that all of you are literally learning your fucking lesson by saying, I didn't know this was going to happen. I didn't know, good people left and right. No, you knew what the fuck you voted for. You knew what was happening. You just felt like you were protected because you were a Trump supporter. And maybe or maybe not white passing. But guess what? Joke's on you. I will vote for Donald Trump. Vote for Donald Trump. I love my freedom.
Cubans are getting deported, but they are not getting deported back to Cuba. And these are not the Cubans who have entered the United States in the last few years. These are Cubans who have been in the U.S. since the 1960s, 70s, 80s, and at one point they were even lawful permanent residents, but because of their criminal history, they lost their immigration status and were ordered deported. But because of the political situation between the United States and Cuba, they were actually never deported to Cuba. And instead, they were placed on what's called order of supervision, where they typically go once a year for a quote-unquote check-in, and they meet with an ICE officer, and the ICE officer makes sure that they don't have any other crimes going on, and they're abiding by the terms of their check-in, and they're able to apply for a work authorization. Since Cubans were not accepted by Cuba to be deported, they have remained in the United States for decades under the order of supervision. But now, since the Trump administration is pushing hard this third country removals, Cubans are now being deported to various locations, including Mexico. You're seeing Cubans go to their...
Miami Cubans are literally terrorists. This is a people's history of how Miami Cubans have tried to destabilize Cuba over the years. Now, growing up in Florida, Miami Cubans have been called a whole lot of things. They've been called Gusano, Miami Cubans, white Cubans, and more. But do y'all even know how they came to the United States in the first place? Let's get into it. Now, it started with the Cuban Revolution in 1959 when Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and other Cuban revolutionaries overthrew the U.S.-backed dictatorship and took power. And as they took power, they rid Cuba of the mafia, drug lords, and expropriated land from wealthy landowners. And because of this, people left. Now, the first wave of Cubans who went to Miami were not just everyday people looking for a better life. A lot of them were wealthy businessmen, members of the mafia, and supporters of the U.S.-backed dictator Batista. And when they left, they were pissed off because they lost their land, their money, and a lot of other things. And they figured that when they got to Miami, though, they wouldn't be there for long because the U.S. would help them retake Cuba. Now, this so-called Golden Exile group took over places like Little Havana and Hialeah in Miami, and they brought some of their wealth and their deep hatred for the new Cuban government, and that would reshape politics in Miami and in Florida for decades. Now, throughout the years, Miami Cubans plotted to overthrow the Cuban government with the help of the United States because, duh, the most famous attempt was the Bay of Pigs invasion in April 1961, when about 1,400 CIA-trained Cuban exiles known as Brigade 2506 launched an attack on Cuba's coast. And it was a complete and total disaster because within 3 days, Cuban forces defeated them and captured over 1,100 men. And despite getting belt to ass in the Bay of Pigs, the Miami Cubans just didn't give up. Throughout the 1960s and 1970s, Miami became a hub for anti-Castro terrorist groups like Omega 7 and Alpha 66. These groups bombed places in Miami that did business with Cuba, targeted Cuban diplomats, and even attacked fellow Cuban Americans who dared to suggest making peace with the island. Omega 7 alone committed nearly 50 terrorist acts by 1983, including political assassinations and bombing of cigar companies, banks, and businesses that sent medicine to Cuba. In the 1990s, Cuban exiles ran paramilitary camps to train people to overthrow the Cuban government. They were also also involved in terrorist attacks on Cuban hotels in the 1990s. They flew into Cuban airspace to drop leaflets encouraging citizens to overthrow Fidel Castro, tried to smuggle grenades into Cuba, planned to bomb a Cuban nightclub, and tried to assassinate Fidel Castro multiple times. And that's not even all of it, right? Crazy. Now, today, the spirit of these Cuban terrorist exiles lives on, specifically in Florida, where we have had to deal with them for years. We have Cuban American lawmakers from Miami like Mario Diaz-Balart, Carlos Jimenez, Maria Salazar, and now Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who have pushed the hardest line against Cuba. They demand tough sanctions and oppose any engagement with the island. They encourage the current administration to starve the island nation for their own good. These are people who play a big role in determining foreign policy when it comes to Cuba. Now, demographically, Miami Cubans are predominantly white. Black Cubans are more likely to just stay in Cuba. And just a quick aside, when I visited Cuba in 2019, most of my encounters were with Afro-Cubans. And I will say that the white Cubans in Cuba were so friendly and hospitable too. And we carried on many conversations about life in America. And I was snitching, y'all, like for real. And my bad Southern accent, speaking Spanish, telling them about police brutality, mass shootings, poverty, homophobia, and more. And when I tell y'all they were gagged because they just couldn't fathom it. All right, back to the story. The Miami Cuban community does vote overwhelmingly Republican at 68%, and Trump was the first Republican candidate in history to win the majority of the Hispanic vote, and that was thanks to Miami Cubans. And remember how I said that some Miami Cubans are terrorists? Well, that was for a reason. The reason is that the anti-Castro fanaticism seems to be slowly but surely dying. Polls also show that younger Cuban Americans are starting to care less about the Castro boogeyman rhetoric and more about issues like affordable housing, rising insurance rates, and traffic. So
this is what I've been telling Latinos, specifically Puerto Ricans that voted for Trump. It is never in your interest to vote Republican. Never. Never. They don't want you. They don't like you. They don't care about you. And now they are actively trying to eliminate birthright citizenship from all fucking territories, including Puerto Rico. And it can start as quick as January 2027, where your children born in the island are not going to be United States citizens. Yet you, the fucking crazy French group that says, we gotta value our citizenship, our Americans, hay que mamarle la tranca a los gringos. You bunch of fucking dummies got into a problem and now you cannot eliminate. The own governor of Puerto Rico told you to vote for him because she's friends with him. And now what is happening? Now these motherfuckers are trying to actively erase you from the goddamn map. Never, ever, ever vote Republican if you're a Latino or a minority. Especially if you're from a territory. This will never get you their good grace. And now you see it happening in real time. But some of you stupid motherfuckers still won't believe it. Que tengan buen día.
Did you know that Cuban deportees, especially the ones that are political dissidents and the ones seeking asylum in the U.S., face a significant risk of torture when they come back to Cuba? So when we ask ourselves, when will Latinos for Trump open their eyes, specifically the Cuban ones? The answer is they never will. And there's no better example than the Cuban for Trump than El Funky. He's a Cuban rapper that's currently facing deportation and possible imprisonment in Cuba since his music helped fuel anti-government protests in Cuba. Someone that's been really silent about this case is self-hating Marco Rubio, a Cuban himself. It's a perfect illustration of how much Marco Rubio has changed up during the Trump presidency. Even just a year ago, I'm sure Marco Rubio would have been the loudest person about this case. It's also a crazy example of how much Trump has changed up about Cuban immigration policies. For decades, the U.S. has rolled out the red carpet for Cubans. Despite Trump refusing to help these Cubans who have overwhelmingly voted for him, they are still very much pro-Trump, including the rapper El Funky. Talk about fucking around and never finding out.
This message is for Cubanos for Trump. Took away your parole program. Cubans, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans, and Haitians. He just took it away from you. We are officially in fuck around and find out season. Welcome to episode 1.
Good afternoon. You know, MAGA Cubans happen to be the most miserable people on this planet. So I want you to recall this memory that happened in Miami not even a year ago. Remember that billboard that was talking ill about Donald Trump? Remember how the Cuban people lost their everlasting minds? I remember because I got a great payout from doing that video of Cubans losing their minds. Now, these MAGA Cubans were so upset about this anti-Trump billboard that they threatened to shut down the Palmetto. They were on every news station. They contacted their representatives, and eventually the billboard came down. Do you see any of that action occurring down in Miami right now when they see their people being taken away? Of course not. Do you hear any new jingles from the Cuban community talking about the immigration issue? Nope. They are still beholden to Papi Trump. This is why they're miserable creatures. And I hate that because we know that some of the Democratic and independent Cubans voted for Kamala. And they get penalized because the Cuban people as a whole voted for Donald Trump. And you guys are despicable. And you're not doing anything. You're not doing anything. Mexicans are over there in California fighting for their people. And you guys are doing nothing as expected. I wish there was a way that you could turn all of this around. You guys are the worst.
Breaking news, because this just happened a couple hours ago. The Supreme Court ruled, and it is going to allow Trump and his administration to strip the humanitarian parole of 500,000 people from 4 countries. A protection that was in place to keep them from being deported is being stripped, and it is going to result in at least 500,000 people being deported who come from 4 countries. Do you want to guess what one of those countries is? The very first one listed? Cuba. Donald Trump and his administration are revoking the protection of thousands of Cubans. Without that protection, those Cubans do not have legal asylum in the United States. And the Trump administration is going to deport thousands of Cubans and send them back to Cuba. They told you that Barack Obama was Fidel. They told you that Hillary Clinton was Fidel. They told you that Bernie Sanders was Fidel. They told you that Joe Biden was Fidel. They told you that Kamala Harris was Fidel. And you believed them. And now, Donald Trump, who needed your vote to get elected, is going to deport Cubans back to Cuba. Myself and others said this would happen, but I'm not here to say I told you so. I'm not here to celebrate this. My heart is broken. I'm a white boy, but I'm from Florida, and I have spent so much of my life around wonderful Cuban people. I have fallen in love with your food and your music and your culture. And then I watched a political party in my country weaponize very legitimate, real fears that you have and lie to you and tell you that if you didn't vote for them, what happened in Cuba would happen to you here. And you did. And now they're sending some of you back to that place because they only cared about your vote and they don't actually care about you.
Thousands of Cubans are facing deportation because the Supreme Court ruled to basically take away the humanitarian parole that was allowing Cubans to come to the United States due to the crisis over in Cuba. And, you know, I'm not shocked because Trump said he's doing exactly what he said he was going to do in his campaign. And I don't feel bad because a lot of Cubans were in support of Trump. I live in Miami, so I know about Cubans for Trump, right? Even the ones who couldn't vote, they were out campaigning for Donald Trump. And if you know anything about Miami Cubans, they are racist. They are racist, not even just to like black people or whatever. They are racist to other Hispanics that don't look like them. Like if you have a little bit of a tan, they are racist towards you. They are colorist, you know, and I don't care if people say, well, I'm not that type of Cuban. Okay, well, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the ones that you know act just like this. And I feel like Cubans shot themselves in the foot, not only just because they were campaigning for Trump, but, you know, you're claiming, you know, to come over to the United States because of the crisis in Cuba and it's not safe there, the communism, but you all are flying to Cuba multiple times a year to visit family, to spend Christmases there, to spend summers there, to stay for a month, but you're claiming that it's not safe to be there and that's why you needed to come to the United States. But there's hella Cubans that are going back to Cuba multiple times a year, right? And documenting it. And that's just not the case for other, you know, immigrants who are going to be affected by, you know, TPS being overturned. Like if you think about Haiti, you can't even fly into Haiti from, like US Airlines cannot fly to Haiti, right? You can get on American Airlines and fly to Cuba, but you can't get on any US airline and fly to Haiti because of the crisis there, right? I do not feel bad for Cubans because they got what they asked for, but I do feel bad for other immigrants who are, you know, facing deportation to a country where they really are not safe there and they have nothing there, right? I feel bad for the people who are innocent and they are affected by the many idiots that, reside in this country and have the right to vote.
50,000 Cubans from the Miami area in Florida are facing deportations. That's because thousands of those Cubans filed for political asylum and were granted political asylum, except they went back and visited their homeland of Cuba. Well, the big deal is that when you file for political asylum, you're declaring that your life is in danger in your home country. And by these Cubans going back to Cuba to visit, that means that the entire process of the political asylum was fraud. The application asked for political asylum seekers to give detail of why they can't go back to their country, why their lives are in danger in their homeland. And Cubans gave those statements that their life was in danger if they ever went back to Cuba. So going back to visit Cuba after you've been granted political asylum indicates that these Cubans have been granted political asylum based on false information. Now, it's no secret, Cubans played a huge role on the re-election of Donald Trump. And a lot of them feel let down by this administration because now they're being sent back home. So I'm going to ask all the Latino community, and I will do the same, to please hold a moment of silence for the thousands of Cubans who now are going to be forced to go back to the island.
This is a message to my fellow Cubans in Miami. I'm so tired of hearing y'all whine about how you came here the right way. Well, we came here the right way. What was the right way? An open door invitation from the U.S. government with guaranteed jobs and access to housing, and when you land, you get a bunch of money thrown at you, all the social programs that possibly exist, including food stamps. Is that the right way? Yeah, because I would love it if all immigrants were able to do it the right way. I would actually love that. I think we all would love that. All the other immigrants would love that. Meanwhile, you all walk around like you're some special group of Latinos. Like the reason that the United States government treated you that way is because you're the best of the Latinos. You're so special. You weren't fucking special. You were pawns in the Cold War. That's why you got all that. You were pawns in the Cold War. Don't you see? You left a socialist nation and you arrived at the United States, a capitalist nation, and you think it's just happenstance, coincidence that they happen to throw all of the socialist programs that were available to you. They literally gave you socialism here and they did it better than what you had it over there so that you would just be happy. And they could use you as advertising for the Cold War. Look at all the people that we rescued from this island nation. We rescued them and brought them to freedom. We gave them freedom. Look how great we are. You're just part of the propaganda, babes. So, why don't you all get off the high horse, come down to the ground where the rest of us are, and then maybe you can actually start doing some good work to make a difference in this.
Anyways, welcome back, guys, and thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you guys literally enjoyed every single clip I was able to roll out for you guys. And you guys, these people are finding out the hard way. Cubans in Miami are crying. Cubans in Miami are furious. Cubans in Miami right now wish that Black Americans can come to their rescue. When Black Americans were telling them during the time of the campaign, telling them that, oh, Cubans in Miami, this thing you are about to start what you can literally not be able of them told Black Americans do not know what they are saying. You know, one bad part about these Latinos, Hispanics, Asian, and immigrants that literally visit it, they think that idolizing right now will actually be the general thing that will help their life. They think that not listening to Black people will literally help their life. They think that calling Black people lazy and telling Black people that they literally do not know what to do or what they are doing, they think it will literally help them. Now they are finding out the hard way. Now they're seeing that all that glitter is not good. Now they're saying that how do we come out of this mess? How do we manage this mess? How do we as Cubans stop getting deported? But there's no way. I'll keep saying it. One particular thing I love about this Orange Man regime is the fact that the Orange Man regime literally taught a lot of all of these immigrants lesson that all that glitters is not gold. You guys remember when the Orange Man started deporting Haitians as well, where Haitians were literally crying, the same Haitians that were calling Black Americans lazy, the same Asians that were saying Black Americans don't get jobs, they are single mothers, east, west, north, and south. They don't talk to Black Americans, they will only talk to people, people that is likely to be their skin color. Right now, it is Cubans in Miami. Cubans in Miami are now finding out that, see, proximity to whiteness is not white. No matter how you try to arrange it, no matter how you try to make it look like, no matter how you try to glorify it, no matter how you worship these people. In fact, if you like, put your head on the floor, let them be matching it. Whenever they want to start with you, they will start with you, and at the end of the day, you will be crying. So I love it that the orange man is keeping to his words, because one, the orange man never asked them to come and sing, I will vote down and throw. The orange man never asked them to tattoo him. The orange man only gave them lyrics that they literally fell into. Cubans have fallen into a big trap. And you know the sweetest part that I like is the fact that Black Americans say we're not coming for your rescue. If you like, sort out yourself anyhow. Every single one of you get deported. It is not our business. Just the same way Asians are now calling Black Americans and say, oh, Black Americans, if you not come to our rescue, it's soon going to be your turn. They will also deport you as well. You will also soon get deported. Black Americans said, we are not. You love yourself. Anybody. Since you decide to idolize white folks, you decide to worship white skin, let that white skin do the job for you. And I love that. Let me know what you think in the comment section. This is the original creators of every single stitches we have in today's episode. I want to say very big thank you to every single one of you. And yes, guys, with that being said, with no further ado, I do like I always say in my videos, I'm going to be saying bye, and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye, guys. I love you guys. See. Say hi. I love you all. Tell them, don't tell me. Tell them. Bye, guys. We love you.